Okay. Isa-start na yung recording. Okay. And, okay. So, ayan. Sorry, nilidistract ako. So, I would like to welcome everyone sa ating pre-recorded session ng ating peer mentoring session for Module 2 ng Intermediate Accounting 1B. So, for this module, it would be focused on property, plant, and equipment. So, for the in-depth coverage, ito yan. Shit. Oh my God, sorry. So first would be the recognition of property, plant, and equipment. Paano siya measure initially? Paano ina-account yung government grants, borrowing costs, which is ways to finance the property, plant, and equipment? Paano siya measure subsequently, and syempre mga subsequent costs na in-incur? And syempre lastly would be the impairment of property, plant, and equipment. So without further ado, let's start. Okay. So first, let's establish what is the definition of PPE. So according to this, PPE are tangible assets that are used in business, in production or supply of goods, for service, for rental, or for administrative purposes that are expected to be used for more than one period. So ang key terms na kailangan natin tandaan dito would be, one, PPE daw ay tangible asset. So physical asset siya. Next, used in business. And lastly, itong used for more than one period. So long-term assets siya. So ayan, now na na-establish natin yung PPE, syempre, doon na magkakaroon ng differences if meron din tayong assets na used for more than one period pero hindi naman siya used in business. So we cannot technically consider it as PPE like investment property. Hindi naman siya ginagamit ni business dun sa mismong ordinary course of business niya. So that wouldn't be considered as PPE but it would be considered as investment property. So next would be, when are PPE recognized? So i-recognize daw natin yung PPE when it is probable that future economic benefits associated with the item will flow to the entity and the cost of the item can be measured reliably. So same lang din sa ibang assets. Yan din yung recognition criteria. So since this is a pre-recorded lecture, tayo na lang din sasagot. So which of the following should not be reported as PPE? So 1, A, land held for future plant site. B, major spare parts of equipment. C, intangible assets. And D, equipment held for rentals. So ano ba yung sagot dyan? C. C yung hindi natin i-report as PPE. So yung A, self-explanatory na yun kasi held for future plant site. So long-term tangible assets ang gagamitin for business. Tapos yung B, skip muna natin yung B kasi medyo nakakalito. Major spare parts of equipment. Yung C, hindi siya PPE kasi, di ba dapat tangible siya in nature? So, just from the name itself, intangible assets, hindi siya dapat considered as PPE. So, D, equipment held for rentals, di ba? Ginagamit din yan sa business since nakalagay dun sa definition, if used in business, nakalagay dun held for rental. So, yung B, bakit natin siya isasama as PPE when major spare parts of equipment lang siya? So, yung major spare parts, yung spare parts are considered as PPE if they are expected to be used for more than one period. Otherwise, they are classified as inventory. So, ayun daw yung reason. Okay, let's move on. So, how are PPE measured? So, focus muna tayo sa initial. So, PPE are measured initially at cost daw. So, ano yung at cost? Acquisition cost plus directly attributable cost, which are, yun yung DAX. And then, estimated cost of dismantling and restoration. So, to expound, ano ba yung DAX? Ano ba yung mga directly attributable cost dun sa PPE? So, eto yon, naggawa ko ng mnemonic-ish. So, eto yon. Tip C. So, ano ba yung tip C? Testing, installation, professional fees, site preparation, initial delivery and handling, tas employee benefits. Yung employee benefits, kailangan related siya dun sa pag-acquire mismo nung PPE. Okay? So, next. So, how is the acquisition cost of PPE measured? So, syempre, there are many ways to acquire PPE. Pwedeng ito nakalist dito. Meron acquisition through purchase, acquisition through issuance of share capital, meron din issuance of bonds payable, meron din naman through exchange, makikipagpalitan si entity ng PPE or ng asset. Pwede din trade-in, which is exchange na may additional money. Tapos through donation or through construction. So, ito daw, how is the acquisition cost of PPE measured? Cost is measured at the cash price equivalent at the acquisition date. However, differences in measurement of cost arises depending on how the PPE is acquired and in the absence of CPE. So, ayun yung sinasabi ko. So, ang priority daw natin if hindi acquired si PPE through purchase would be kung ano yung cash price equivalent. Yun yung priority natin. If sa problems, nagbigay ng cash price equivalent tas meron pang other details, ang papansinin lang natin na acquisition cost would be yung cash price equivalent at hindi yung mga kung ano-ano na kasama pa ng problem. So, if given si CPE, yun na yung acquisition cost. Okay? So, ayun na, through purchase, pwedeng cash basis, on account basis, through deferred payments. So, yung deferred payments, yun lang yung installment basis. Ayan. So ayan, through simple, ito na yung different methods of acquisition. So isa-isahin natin. Through simple purchase, pag cash basis, kung magkano yung let go kung magkano yung binayaran ni entity na cash, yun yung acquisition cost ng PPE. Tapos nakalagay dito sa note, if PPE are paid on lump sum, cash paid is prorated based on the fair value of assets acquired. So, ayan, guess nyo naman yan, marunong na ka mag-prorate. So, ito. If on account basis, ayun daw, cash price equivalent yung pipiliin natin. Pag walang cash price equivalent, kung magkano yung terms. Pero, ang cash price equivalent pag on account basis would be purchase price less cash discount. Ito, whether taken or not. So, kahit kinuha daw or hindi na entity, lagi mo siyang ide-deduct yung cash discount to arrive on the cash price equivalent. So, next method of acquisition would be through deferred payments. So, if through deferred payments daw, yung priority natin na measurement would be i-record yung PPE at CPE at cash price equivalent. Ayun, same lang din talaga. Excess of installment price over cash price equivalent is treated as interest expense to be amortized over the credit period. Ayan. Tapos yung if walang CPE, ang magiging cost ng ating PPE would be down payment if meron down payment plus present value of note payable. So ayan. If tandaan nyo pa yon kapag if series of payment, ang gagamitin nyo would be annuity. Tapos kapag term yung note payable na in-issue, ang gagamitin nyo would be yung PV of 1. Wait lang, no. Ayan. So since may present value, syempre, magkakaroon tayo ng discount or premium. So, yung difference ng face amount sa present value of note payable would be discount or premium. So, alam nyo naman na yung treatment doon, ina-amortized siya using effective interest method as interest expense. So, yung may table. So, ito. If the PP is acquired through issuance of share capital, so ang cost would be, dito na hindi mag-a-apply yung CPE. So, ang priority natin if nag-issue si entity ng shares kapalit ng PPE would be number 1, fair value ng PPE na na-receive. Tapos, if hindi present yun, ang gagamitin natin would be fair value of shares issued. Tapos, if wala pa rin yun, par value of shares issued. So, yung difference ng fair value PPE na na-receive tapos dun sa kaysa dun, yung difference ng fair value nung PPE na na-receive dun sa par value ng shares na in-issue, i-charge natin siya sa share premium. Okay? So, ito daw, illustration 1. Wife company purchased an automatic packaging machine at a cost of 900,000. Shipping cost amounted to 50,000. Foundation work to house the machine cost 120,000. An additional electric line had to be wired to the machine at a cost of 40,000. Labor and testing cost totaled 70,000. Materials used up in testing cost 30,000. So ang tanong would be, what amount should be capitalized as cost of the machine? So ito, given tayo na magkano niya binili, which is yung acquisition cost. Tapos, ang difference na lang would be, kung etong cost ba to na other than dun sa acquisition cost would be capitalizable. So, tignan natin yung solution. So, ayun daw. All costs are capitalizable dahil lahat sila ay DAX. So, ito, shipping cost, capitalizable. Ito, foundation work to house the machine, capitalizable din yan. Tapos ito, additional electric line wired to the machine cost 40,000. Kasi itong foundation work, tapos itong additional electric line, kaya siya capitalizable kasi hindi naman magagamit si machine if hindi natin siya in-install. So capitalizable talaga siya as cost of PPE. So labor and testing cost, capitalizable yan. Kasi nandun siya sa tip C. Materials used up in testing cost, capitalizable din. So, i-add lang natin lahat ng cost na incurred kasi lahat yun ay capitalizable and then that would be the answer kung ano yung cost of machine. So, 900,000 plus yung directly attributable cost which is 310,000. The sum would be 1,210,000 which is yun yung cost of machine. So ayan, second illustration. On December 31, 2023, Cito Company purchased a machine in exchange for a non-interest-bearing note requiring 8 payments of 250,000. The first payment was made on December 31, 2024, and the others are due annually on December 31. At date of issuance, the prevailing interest rate for this type of note was 11%. So ito yung mga PV factors for ordinary annuity, we have 5.146. Tapos, we have annuity of 1 in advance, 5.712. So, yung required would be, what amount should be recorded as initial cost of the machine, tsaka what amount should be reported as interest expense. So, dito, himay-himayin natin yung problem. So, bumili daw si Cito Company ng machine. Kaso, binayaran niya yan through issuing non-interest-bearing note payable. So, eto dun sa problem ba, may given ba tayo na cash price equivalent? Di ba wala? So, ang cash price equivalent natin would be yung present value ng note. So, di ba pagka note, pag issuance of note, down payment if any plus present value of note. So dito naman wala naman in-state na may down payment na ginawa si Cito Company. So lahat lang to ay nag-issue lang talaga siya ng note payable. So nakalagay dito requiring 8 payments of 250,000. Tapos payable annually daw. So yearly. So if given tayo ng ganitong problem, so yung note ay series of payments. So with that, ang gagamitin na natin na present value would be ordinary annuity. Kasi ang payment pa naman ay hindi sa 2023 kundi sa 2024. If ang first payment ay ginawa ng 2023, tsaka natin gagamitin yung annuity of 1 in advance. Pero since next year pa yung magbabayad si Cito Company ng first installment, ang gagamitin natin na present value ay ordinary annuity. So, tignan natin yung solution. So, ayun, ang ginamit natin ay PV of ordinary annuity of 1 at 11% for 8 periods. So, 250,000 times PV factor ng ordinary annuity, 5.146. So, ang initial cost ng ating machine would be 1,286,500. Yan yung i-record natin sa books na initial measurement ni PPE. So, ngayon, ang next required naman ay magkano daw interest expense for 2024, yung at the first installment payment. So, marunong mo kayo gumawa ng di ba? Amortization table. So yung carrying amount times natin sa interest rate would be 11%. Tama ba? Double check natin. 1,286,500 times 11%. So tama, 141,515 yan yung interest expense natin for the year for 2024. So Ayan, ilaless natin yung 250,000 less interest para makuha natin yung amortization which is 108. Tapos since discount siya, since ano siya, tawag doon, installment, ide-deduct natin yung amortization dun sa carrying amount. So, 1,286,500 less 108,485. Yung sagot nun, yun yung carrying amount as of 2024. Pero since ang tanong lang sa atin ay interest expense, ang sagot lang natin ay 141,515. So, simply, carrying amount times interest rate. Okay, so madali pa naman siya. So, ito yung other methods of acquisition. Wait lang siya. Nauuhaw ako sa pahinga muna slide. Pero, shit. So, ito daw yung other methods of acquisition. Pwedeng mag-issue si entity ng bonds payable in exchange of PPE. So, ang order of priority natin sa pag-record ng cost would be fair value of bonds issued, fair value of PPE received, tas face amount of bonds. So, different naman siya dun sa pag nag-issue ng share capital. Kasi di ba pag nag-issue ng share capital, ang first order natin would be yung fair value of PPE received. Pero pag bonds payable, ang first order natin would be fair value of bonds issued. So, ito, next would be through exchange, nakipagpalitan si entity. So, sa exchange, meron tayong dalawang instances. Pwedeng may commercial substance, tas pwedeng without commercial substance. Ang difference lang nun would be, kapag with commercial substance, ang titignan lang natin would be fair value. Fair value, fair value. Pag without commercial substance, cost. So carrying amount yan. Kung magkano siya ni-record dun sa kapalitan niya, magkano sa books niya. Basta yung cost, yung carrying amount ng PP na binigay or ni-receive, yun yung basihan pag without commercial substance. So nakalagay dito on part of payor, if ever na may cash involved, ang order of priority would be fair value of PPE na given, na binigay, plus cash paid if meron. Next would be, if walang given na fair value ng PPE na binigay, ang next priority natin would be fair value of PPE na natanggap. And then, if wala pa rin, book value of PPA given. Tapos, on part of recipient, if merong cash involved, kung magkano yung binigay, fair value ng asset na binigay niya less cash na natanggap niya. Tapos kapag without commercial substance, cost of PPE given plus cash paid. Ganon din sa recipient, kaso ilalas lang yung cash na na-receive. Tapos ito din, we should take note din na kapag without commercial substance yung exchange, wala tayong i-recognize na gain or loss. Okay. Tapos next would be through trade-in. So ito medyo, ngayon ko lang na-realize, medyo mali yung sinabi ko kanina. Although, hindi naman technically mali. Pero kasi di ba pag trade-in tayo, hindi siya necessarily exchange, pero yung lumang unit mo, ibibigay mo dun sa pinagbibilhan mo. So, parang kung magkano yung cost na cover ng lumang asset mo, yun yung ibibigay mong pera. Pero, ayun, yun yung trade-in. So, similar siya in some way sa exchange, pero ang difference would be, hindi siya direct na exchange ng PPE. Pero ayun lang, ito-trade mo lang yung lumang unit mo, lumang PPE mo, tapos may additional payment ka lang. So, pag through trade-in, ang order of priority natin would be fair value of PPE given plus cash paid. Tapos yung second would be trade-in value of PPE given plus cash paid. Okay? Tapos ito, illustration 3 agad. Peach Company exchanged a truck with a carrying amount of 1,200,000 and a fair value of 2 million for a truck and wait lang ulit. Peach Company exchanged a truck with a carrying amount of 1,200,000 and a fair value of 2 million for a truck and 200,000 cash. So, si Peach Company daw, in-exchange niya yung truck niya na may carrying amount na 1.2 million, tapos yung fair value ng truck niya ay 2 million. Ang kapalit nun would be truck tsaka 200,000 cash. So, the fair value of the truck received was 1.85 million. The exchange has commercial substance. At what amount should the truck received in the exchange be recorded? So dito, may commercial substance daw yung exchange. So dun pa lang, ang titignan na natin fair value. fair value nung truck na binigay niya, 'di ba yan yung order of priority natin? So yan yung gagamitin natin, which is yung 2 million. Tapos nakalagay sa problem, yung truck na in-exchange na which is may fair value na 2 million, ang kapalit nun ay truck din, tsaka 200,000 cash. So si Peach Company, meron siyang mare-receive na 200,000 cash. So if ganun, 'di ba, ilalas natin yung cash received dun sa fair value ng asset na binigay niya. So ang ire-record natin yung new truck would be fair value, ayun nga, fair value of the truck given, 2 million less cash na na-receive niya, which is 200,000. So, ang cost of new truck from exchange would be 1.8 million. OMG. Okay. Tapos, ito na yung last two methods of acquisition. So, we have through donation tsaka through construction. So, sa through donation, ang cost ng ating PPE na in-acquire would be katumbas dun sa fair value of PPE na dinonate sa entity. Kung ano yung fair value ng donated na PPE, yun yung cost nun. So, nakalagay dito, expenses relating to the donation shall be charged against donated capital account. Thus, directly attributable costs incurred such as installation and testing costs to bring the donated asset to the location and condition for its intended use shall be capitalized. So, yung acquisition cost lang daw tong fair value of PPE na dinonate kay entity. Tapos kapag may DAX na na-incur, ika-capitalize din. So, if through construction naman na-acquire yung PPE, ang cost ng PPE would be direct materials incurred, direct labor incurred, tsaka incremental overhead. Okay? So, since since pre-recorded, tayo na lang din magsasagot. So, for the first problem, Maharani Company acquired a new machinery. Invoice price of the machinery ay 1.05 million. Cash discount available but not taken on purchase would be 15,000. Freight paid on the new machinery ay 30,000. Cost of removing the old machinery 11.25K. Installation cost of the new machinery 37.5K. Testing cost before the machinery was put into regular operations 22.5K. Tapos loss on premature retirement of old machinery 3.75K. So sa problem sa PPE, magkakaroon kayo ng problem mostly sa capitalization ng expenses. So, alin bang expense yung ikakapitalize dun sa asset account, alin ba yung hindi. So, dun lang naman nagkakatalo-talo yung problems mostly. So, ito sa problem daw, what amount should be capitalized as cost of new machinery? So, tingnan natin yung sagot. So, ang sagot daw ay 1,125,000. So, bakit daw yun? So, invoice price, tapos ilalas natin yung cash discount, ayun nga, whether taken or not. So, 1.05 million less 15,000. Tapos, i-add natin yung mga DAX na capitalizable, which is yung freight lang, 30,000. Installation cost, 37.5K. Tsaka yung testing cost, 22.5K. Etong loss on premature retirement of old machinery, hindi natin siya papansinin. Tsaka tong cost of removing the old machinery. Kasi yan ay ina-expense outright. So, yun yung solution. Kaya ang sagot natin ay 1.125 million. So, next problem, Dayan Company exchanged the truck with a carrying amount of 1.38 million and a fair value of 2.3 million for a truck and 230,000 cash. The fair value of the truck received was 1.8 million. The exchange has commercial substance. At what amount should the truck received in the exchange be recorded? So, same lang din dun sa illustration kanina. May commercial substance. Given tayo ng fair value ng truck na binigay ni Dayan Company. Tapos si Dayan Company naka-receive ng 230,000. So, ide-deduct lang natin yung cash received dun sa fair value nung truck na binigay niya. Yun na yung, dun na natin i-record yung truck na na-receive in exchange. So, yan. 2.07 million. So, next topic, since Yung property, plant, and equipment, yan yung mga major assets ni entity. So, siyempre, most likely, hindi naman, I mean, hindi naman sa hindi kaya, pero mas maganda if hindi natin siya i-finance out, entirely out of the entity's asset. Although pwede, pero hindi naman yung outright isang bultuhan. So, dun sa coverage, di ba, meron tayong government grants, which is yung upcoming topic, tsaka yung borrowing cost. So, itong government grants, binibigay siya ni government. So, ito, basahin natin yung definition. So, assistance by government in the form of transfer of resources to an entity in return for part or future compliance with certain conditions relating to the operating activities of the entity. So, yung government grants daw ay galing sa government, pero may kapalit. Yun ay future compliance with certain conditions in part. Ayun to. So, ang kapalit doon ay grants. So, types of government grants according to condition attached. So, meron tayong related to assets saka related to income. Pag related to assets, primary condition is the entity's acquisition or construction of long-term assets. So, bibigyan daw si entity ni government ng resources pero ang kapalit nun would be construction ng long-term assets. Okay, acquisition ng long-term assets. So, ano ba yung mga long-term assets? Di ba? Usually, yun yung PPE. So, pag related to assets daw yung grant, ang ang binibigay na grant ni government would be si entity ay magtayo or mag-acquire ng PPE. So, yung other type of government grant would be related to income. So, pag related to income, yun lang yung other than those related to assets. So, yung residual definition. So, how are grants measured? So, pag monetary yung grant, i-measure natin yung grant at amount of cash received or fair value of the amount receivable. Pag naman non-monetary, fair value of the asset received or nominal amount of the non-monetary asset received. So, tapos ito. How are grants accounted for? Grant is recognized in profit or loss over one or more periods in which the related cost for which the grant is intended to compensate is incurred. So, ito. It is important to note itong recognized in profit or loss over one or more periods. So, since marami tayong types ng grants, so di ba dun tayo sa ano, related to assets. So pwedeng depreciable yung asset na i-construct or pwede rin naman ang natanggap na grant ni entity, let's say, ay non-depreciable, so which is land. Pwede rin naman yung na-receive ni entity ay financial aid for expenses or losses. So, eto yun, kung paano siya i-account. Pag related to depreciable asset, yung grant ay i-recognize in profit or loss over the period and in proportion with the depreciation expense recognized. So, yung grant ay parang in some way, i-divide natin siya sa useful life. So, nung asset na depreciable asset. So, parang, ayun nga, yun nga, over one or more period natin i-recognize yung grant. So, pagka ganun, similar yung treatment sa depreciation pag yung grant ay related to depreciable assets. So, next naman, pag related to non-depreciable assets, ito ay nire-recognize na entity in profit or loss when the cost of fulfilling the attached condition are incurred. So, let's say, nakatanggap si entity ng land, tapos yung condition dun ay, ano, mag, mag-comply si entity sa environmental, let's say, paano ba yan? Code or ordinance nung government na kinalolooban ni entity. So, i-recognize lang natin yung grant na na-receive kapag na-fulfill na yung condition, which is yung mag-comply si entity dun sa ano nga yung condition na attached? Yung compliance sa environmental, wait, ano ba yung sinabi ko kanina? Ayun, environmental ordinance. So, i-recognize lang daw yung grant pag na-fulfill na yung condition na yun, na sumunod si entity dun sa ordinance. So, ganun yung treatment kapag related to non-depreciable asset. I-recognize lang siya pag na-fulfill na yung condition. Tapos, pag naman received as financial aid or expense or losses, i-recognize agad yung grant in profit or loss when the grant becomes receivable. Okay? Tapos ayan, dumako na tayo sa isang way to finance property, plant, and equipment. So, ito na yan. Ito na yung borrowing cost. So, Before we start borrowing costs, discussion sa borrowing costs, kailangan muna natin malaman ano ba yung qualifying asset. So, a qualifying asset daw ay asset that necessarily takes a substantial period of time to get ready for the intended use. So, yun daw qualifying asset ay not restricted to PPE only but can include intangible assets and investment property. As such, entities oftentimes borrow for the construction acquisition of these assets. Tied with it are costs attached to the borrowing. So, ayan na nga yung borrowing cost. So, with the definition given, substantial period of time to get ready for the intended use. So, sagutan natin to. Which of the following is not a qualifying asset? So, A, manufacturing plant, B, power generation facility, C, patent, D, aging cheese. So, ang sagot dyan would be D, aging cheese. Yung manufacturing plant, PPE yan. Yung B, PPE din yan. Yung C, intangible assets. Di ba nakalagay dun na hindi naman restricted yung definition ng qualifying asset sa PPE lang. Pwedeng i-include dun ang intangible assets tsaka ang investment properties. So, sa lahat ng choices, ang hindi lang kasama dun sa definition ng qualifying asset would be aging cheese. Kasi, yung aging cheese daw ay inventory. Kahit na it takes a substantial period amount of time para mag-get ready yung cheese for sale, inventory pa rin siya kasi it is produced or manufactured in large quantities on a repetitive basis. Ito yung note dyan. Large quantities on a repetitive basis. Okay, so, ayun na nga daw, di ba? Pag nag-finance tayo nun, tas umuutang, may mga cost na attached doon. So, ito yung mga borrowing costs. So, how are borrowing costs accounted for? If borrowing is directly attributable to the acquisition of qualifying asset, borrowing costs are required to be capitalized as cost of asset. All other borrowing costs should be expensed as incurred. So, yun lang daw related sa attributable dun sa acquisition ng qualifying asset, yung ika-capitalize. Pag hindi related sa acquisition ng qualifying asset, i-expense as incurred. So, when are borrowing costs capitalized? Ito nga daw yon. When the following conditions are present, the entity incurs expenditure for the asset, the entity incurs borrowing costs, the entity undertakes activities that are necessary to prepare the asset for the intended use. So, hindi naman marami, dalawa lang pala actually, sorry. So, we have two types of borrowing. We have specific tsaka general. Yung specific, yung inutang ni entity ay specifically borrowed for the acquisition or construction ni qualifying asset. Pag naman general borrowing, inutang siya ni entity generally, like general loan siya. So, yung loan na yun pwedeng ginagamit ni entity sa pagpapatayo ng PPE. Pwede rin naman pag-finance ng ng operation. So, general borrowing yung tawag doon. Tapos meron din tayong finance by both SB and GB. Specific borrowing and general borrowing. So, pag yung specific borrowing, ang treatment nun would be actual borrowing cost less investment income. Yun yung capitalizable borrowing cost. So, yung actual borrowing cost would be amount borrowed times yung interest kung magkano yun. Yun yung borrowing cost. Plus, it is important to note din na ileles lang natin yung investment income. Ito, less investment income kapag kayong borrowing ay specific. Pag general, wala tayong ide-deduct na investment income. Nagde-deduct lang tayo ng investment income kapag specifically borrowed yung fund. So, paano nga ba nagkakaroon ng investment income? Kapag let's say, umutang si entity para magpatayo ng building. So, habang hindi pa tapos yung building, meron pang unexpended funds dun sa inutang. So, yung unexpended portion ng borrowed na loan, yun yung ininvest mo na ni entity sa let's say securities. Tapos yung securities, nag-earn ng income. So, yun yung tinatawag na investment income. Then, natidak yung sa actual borrowing cost to arrive at the capitalizable borrowing cost. So, kapag naman financed by general borrowing yung PPE, so yung total amount borrowed divide by total borrowing cost, yun yung capitalization rate. If madaming general loan si entity, ito yung gagawin natin. total amount borrowed divided by total borrowing cost. Yung total borrowing cost, yun lang yung amount borrowed times interest rate. Tapos ayun, i-apply lang natin sa lahat ng borrowing, tapos i-add natin. Tapos, pag dinivide mo yung dalawang yan, makuha mo yung capitalization rate. Tapos, yung capitalization rate, i-multiply natin sa average expenditures for the qualifying asset. Tapos yung sagot dun, yun na yung capitalizable borrowing cost. Tapos yung average expenditures, let's say, January nag-incur ng expenditure si entity para dun sa qualifying asset. So from January to December, outstanding yung expenditure. So at the end, i-divide mo siya sa 12 para ma-average mo siya. Ganun yung treatment dun sa expenditures throughout the year. Para siya ma-average, i-multiply mo siya sa months outstanding kasi sasum mo yung lahat ng expenditures. I-divide mo sa 12, yun yung average expenditures. Pero meron din naman problems na ini-state na incurred evenly. Pag incurred evenly, tapos given ka lang na amount, i-divide mo lang siya sa 2 para makuha yung average expenditures. Tapos, if naman yung qualifying asset ay financed by both special borrowing and general borrowing, yung average expenditures for the qualifying asset, ilalas mo dun yung kung magkano yung specific borrowing para makuha mo yung general borrowing. Tapos yun, i-multiply mo siya sa general borrowing rate. Pag madaming general borrowing, sa capitalization rate mo siya i-multiply. Tapos ang sagot dun would be capitalizable general borrowing cost. So, i-add mo dun yung capitalizable specific borrowing cost. Tapos ang sagot dun, yun na yung total capitalizable borrowing cost. Ito yung nakalagay. If there are 2 or more general borrowings, use capitalization rate. Tapos ito yan. Ito yung solution dun sa capitalization rate. Tapos ito, may additional notes daw dito. Capitalizable borrowing cost should not exceed actual borrowing cost. Tapos, ito pa, when readying qualifying asset takes more than a year, the expense to be carried over the next year is total expenditure for the year plus kung magkano yung kinapitalize sa borrowing cost for the year. So, let's say, noong December 31, ang total expenditures na na-incur ni entity for the qualifying asset ay, let's say, 3 million. Tapos yung kinapitalize na ni entity na borrowing cost noong year na yun ay 100,000. So yung magiging outstanding na total expenditure noong January, since hindi pa ready yung qualifying asset, ay 3.1 million. So yung 3.1 million, ganun din yung treatment nun. Hanggang matapos hanggang matapos si qualifying asset. Tapos ito, illustration 4. During 2023, Jaguar Company constructed asset costing 8.5 million. The weighted average expenditures for the year total 5.1 million. To help pay for construction, 3,740,000 was borrowed at 10% on January 1, 2023. Funds not needed for construction were temporarily invested in short-term securities yielding 76,500 in interest revenue. Other than the construction funds borrowed, the only other debt outstanding during the year was 4.25 million 10-year 9% note payable dated January 1, 2022. So isa-isahin natin yung information. So nag-construct daw si Jaguar company ng asset. So yung asset na to, since major asset siya, qualifying asset siya, costing 8.5 million. Tapos, yung weighted average expenditures daw ay 5.1 million. Tapos, para daw dun sa construction, umutang daw si Jaguar Company ng 3.774. So, yung inutang na to ay para dun sa construction. So, ito ay specific borrowing. Tapos, funds not needed for construction were temporarily invested in short-term securities yielding 76.5 in interest revenue. So, may investment income. Thus, other than the construction funds borrowed, the only other debt outstanding during the year was 4.25 million. So, ito ay general borrowing. So, what amount of borrowing costs should be capitalized during 2023? So, ang solution would be, yung average expenditures, ilalas natin yung kung magkano yung specific borrowing, 3.74. Tapos yung sagot diyan, yan yung expenditures na attributable sa general borrowing. So yung general borrowing, since isa lang yung general borrowing ni entity, i-multiply mo siya sa general borrowing rate, which is 9%. Tapos yung sagot doon, yun yung general borrowing cost. Tapos, yung amount specifically borrowed, i-multiply mo siya sa specific borrowing rate, ang sagot ay specific borrowing cost. Tapos, i-deduct mo dun yung yung investment income para yung ginawa ko solution dito, mali. Dapat inuna ko muna i-deduct yung less investment income, pero technically ganun din yun. Pero dapat specific borrowing cost less investment income, tapos yung sagot nun, yun yung i-add mo sa general borrowing. Pero regardless naman, yun din yung sagot. Pero para lang din hindi nakakalito, dapat yung investment income, i-deduct mo lang siya sa specific borrowing, hindi siya sa general borrowing. So, ayun. Pero ganun din yung sagot. Pero ayun. So, next illustration, Pillow Princess Company began the construction of new manufacturing plant on February 1, 2023. The cost of 43.2 million was paid in full to the contractor on February 1, 2023 and was funded from existing general borrowings. The construction was completed on September 30, 2021. So the borrowings during 2021 comprised the following. Wait lang. Borrowing from Bank A at 8%, 14.4 million. Borrowing from Bank B at 9%, 18 million. And borrowing from Bank C at 10% for 54 million. What amount of borrowing cost should be capitalized in relation to the plan? So, puro general borrowings. So, ito yung example ng general borrowings na marami. So, ito yung kinukuha pa natin yung capitalization rate. So, from yung loans outstanding from each banks, i-multiply mo siya sa interest, yun yung actual borrowing cost. So, i-add mo yun yung total actual borrowing cost. I-divide mo siya sa total general borrowings para makuha yung capitalization rate. So, 8,172 million divided by 86.4 million. Ang sagot doon ay 9.46. Tapos yung amount paid to contractor, yan yung expenditure. Since yan lang yung expenditure during the year, nagbayad na paano company? Ni Pillow Princess, nagbayad na siya in full noong February 1. I-multiply natin siya sa months outstanding, which is 8. Bakit 8? Kasi from February to September 30 lang yung construction. So, February to September 30, 8 months yon. So, 8 tapos i-divide mo siya sa 12, tapos ang sagot doon, yun yung average expenditure, which is 28.8 million. Tapos yun yung i-multiply mo sa capitalization rate, which is magiging capitalizable borrowing cost ni Pillow Princess ay 2.724 million. Okay. So, same lang din. I-treat na lang natin yung mga JPN point exercise as illustration. So, Manila Dreams Company had the following loans outstanding for 2021. Specific construction loan, 1.37 million at 10%. General loan, 12 million at 12%. The entity began the self-construction of a building on January 1, 2024, and the building was completed on December 31, 2024. The following expenditures were made during the year. Noong January 1, nag-incur si Manila Dreams ng 1.2 million. Noong July 1, 2.4 million. Noong November 1, 3.6 million. What amount should be capitalized as borrowing costs related to the building? So sa problem na to, meron tayong specific borrowing at general borrowing. So ang first step would be, hanapin natin yung average expenditure. So ito, noong January 1, i-multiply natin siya sa months outstanding since from January yung construction to December 31. So 12 months siyang outstanding since from January, 1.2 times 12. Tapos yung July, 6 months siyang outstanding. So 2.4 times 6. Tapos sa November, 2 months outstanding siya. So 3.6 times 2. So O yung sum nun, 36 million, i-divide mo siya sa 12 months para makuha yung average expenditure. So, 36 million divided by 12, 3 million. Ilalas natin yung specific loan, 1.37 million. Yun lang, yung sagot doon, yun ay applicable to general loan. So, 1.63 million times general rate ng general borrowing, which is 12%. So, ayan, yung capitalizable general borrowing natin ay 195.6K. Tapos yung capitalizable specific borrowing cost ay yun lang yung 1.37 times 10%. Yun na yun. Tapos pag pinag-add mo yun, yun na yung total capitalizable borrowing cost ni Manila Dreams Company. So, ang sagot natin ay 332,600. Okay, so, bilis natin, grabe. I mean, ang bilis ko. Wait lang. Probably 50% ng itong pre-recorded lecture ay umiinom ako. So, eto. Next part, doon na tayo sa subsequent cost. So, how is the subsequent cost of PPE measured? So, subsequent costs are capitalized if, ika-capitalize lang natin yung subsequent cost if capital expenditures. Capital expenditures siya if ina-extend yung useful life, ini-increase yung capacity, or ini-improve yung efficiency and safety. So yung revenue expenditures, yun yung cost that does not qualify under the recognition criteria, which is kailangan capital expenditures. So kapag revenue expenditures expensed when incurred, ang kinakapitalize lang natin subsequently ay yung mga capital expenditures. So ano ba yung mga capital expenditures? Ito yung additions, improvements or betterments, replacements, repairs, and major inspections, rearrangement, and reinstallation. So I think i-leave ko na 'to kay Ma'am Lu, tsaka meron din naman akong ibang parts dito sa PPE na ini-skip since feel ko magagahol if iko-compress natin sa isang session. So, eto naman yung mga need yung malaman. So, if if kunwari let's say bumili ng machine si entity, tapos subsequently nag-incur siya ng related dun sa machine na yun para i-extend yung useful life, increase yung capacity, improve yung efficiency. Basta in short, nagkaroon siya ng capital expenditures related dun sa machine. So yung capital expenditures, ika-capitalize mo siya. So i-add mo siya dun sa cost ng machine. So ganun yung treatment. So bumalik tayo dun sa paano mine-measure. Pero dito subsequently. So, dito nakalagay, subsequently, mine-measure yung PPE either at cost model or revaluation model. So, focus muna tayo sa cost model. So, pag cost model, PPE is carried at cost less any accumulated depreciation and any accumulated impairment losses. So, ayun, alam nyo na yan. So, eto na, dito na yung maraming methods ng depreciation. So, meron tayong straight line method, meron tayong variable or output method, meron tayong sum of years digits method, double declining method. Actually, may marami pang methods of depreciation, pero ito lang yung focus ko since ito lang din naman most likely yung gagamitin sa intact nyo. So, etong straight line method, alam nyo na to eh. Ito na yung usual depreciation nyo. Depreciable amount over useful life. Tapos itong variable or output method, medyo madali lang siya. So, hanapin mo lang muna yung depreciation rate, which is yung depreciable amount over estimated output over useful life. So, kung ilang outputs daw yung mapoproduce ni PPE over sa kanyang useful life. So, yun yung depreciation rate. Tapos yung depreciation expense ay depreciation rate times kung ilan yung output na na-produce or let's say na-produce nung year na yun. Yun yung depreciation expense. So, straightforward lang. Pag itong straight line method tsaka variable output method. So, next would be sum of years digits method. So, pag sum of years digits method, ito na yung medyo mahirap. Pero ang first step dito would be, i-compute natin ano yung SYD, ano yung sum of years digits. So, life times life plus 1 over 2. So, magbigay tayo ng example. Let's say, ano, let's say 8 years. So, ang sum of years digits ni 8 years ay 8 times 8 plus 1 over 2. So, ang sum of years digits ng 8 years ay 36. So, paano na yun? Pag nakuha mo ng SYD, ang gagawin mo na dun ay yung depreciation expense ay depreciable amount times remaining useful life over SYD. So, nung first year nung acquisition, ang remaining useful life pa nun ay 8 years, di ba? 8 years. So, ang gagawin mo dun ay depreciable amount times 8 over 36. So, next year, ang remaining useful life na ay 7. So, depreciable amount times 7 over 36. Ganun pag SYD. So, medyo straightforward din, pero may additional step din kasi iko-compute mo pa yung SYD. Tapos, kapag ka double declining naman, ganun din, kukunin mo na yung double declining rate, which is madali lang, 2 over useful life. Tapos yung depreciation expense ay carrying amount times, double declining rate. So, pag double declining method daw, ini-ignore natin yung residual value. So, ayan, kaya napansin nyo din, doon sa straight line method, sa variable output method, sa SYD method, ang ginagamit natin na basis would be depreciable amount. Pero kapag ka DD method, ang ginagamit natin ay carrying amount. Ayun lang yung difference. So, eto, alam niyo naman na ito yung depreciable amount ay cost of PPE less residual value. Yun na yung depreciable amount. Okay. So, magkaroon tayo ng illustration dito sa depreciation. So, MU Company purchased a packing machine on January 1, 2023 for 11.34 million. The useful life of the machine is estimated at 3 years with a residual value at the end of this period of 840,000. During the useful life, the expected units of production are 16.8 units in 2023, 9.8 units in 2024, and 8.4K units in 2025. What amount should be recorded as depreciation expense for 2024 using the appropriate depreciation method? So, if given tayo ng expected units of production, ang appropriate depreciation method would be yung variable output method kasi mas accurate yun. Mas maa-account ng maayos yung useful, yung kung paano nagde-depreciate yung machine pag ang ginamit natin would be yung expected units of production if ang gagamitin natin would be yung straight line. So, ang gagamitin natin would be variable or output method sa illustration 6. So, cost of machine less residual value, yun yung depreciable amount. So, depreciable amount, i-divide natin sa expected production units over useful life. Yung 35K ay nanggaling siya sa sum ng 16.8, 9.8, tsaka 8.4K. Yun yung 3 years, 2023, 2024, 2025. So, 35K daw yung expected production units over useful life. So, i-divide natin siya sa yung depreciable amount, i-divide natin sa 35,000. Ang magiging depreciation rate natin ay 300. So, kung ilan ang tanong ay 2024, di ba? Ang depreciation expense ng 2024 ay kung ilan yung units produced in 2024 times 300. So, 9.8K times 300, 2.94 million yung depreciation expense for 2024. Diba? Madali lang pag variable or output method. Tapos, illustration 7, Smith Company purchased a machine for 7.2 million on January 1, 2023. The machine has an estimated useful life of 7 years and a residual value of 800,000. The machine is being depreciated using the sum of years digits method. What amount should be reported as accumulated depreciation on December 31, 2024? So, ang gagamitin daw natin ay SYD. So, given tayo ng 7 years, given tayo ng residual value, given tayo ng cost. So, makukuha natin yung depreciation using SYD at least. So ayun. Kunin natin yung SYD, 7 times 7 plus 1 over 2. So, ang SYD ay 28. So, cost of machine, 7.2 million less residual value, 800,000. Tas ang sagot dun ay ang makukuhang sagot dun ay 6.4 million, yun yung depreciable amount. So, yung depreciable amount, i-multiply natin siya sa SYD fraction for 2024, which is 6/28. So, ang depreciation ay 1,371,429,000. Since ang tanong ay accumulated depreciation, kailangan din natin kunin yung for 2023. So, yung SYD nung 2023, 1.6 million, i-add lang natin nung depreciation nung 2024. Ang sagot ay 2,971,429. Yun yung accumulated depreciation as of 2024. Okay? So, illustration 8. On August 1, 2023, Morena Company purchased an equipment for 6.3 million with residual value estimated at 260,000. The equipment is depreciated over 10 years using the double declining balance method. What amount should be reported as depreciation for 2024? So, double declining naman. Pag double declining, di ba? Dinidisregard natin yung carrying. Dinidisregard natin yung residual value, tapos ang papansinin natin yung carrying amount. So, ang DD rate natin would be, 10 years, 2/10. So, 20% ang ating double declining rate. So, 6.3 million, nung August 1 pala siya. So, yung 20%, 6.3 times 20%. Tapos, since nung August lang na-acquire yung equipment, so we have August, September, October, November, December, 5 months. So, 6.3 million times 20%, 1.26 million times 5/12. So, ang depreciation ng 2023 ay 525,000. So, 6.3 less 525,000. Ang carrying amount as of year-end ng 2023 ay 5,775,000. So, yung 5,775,000, yun yung basis natin sa depreciation for 2024 since yun yung carrying amount. So, 5,775,000 times 20%. Ang depreciation expense for 2024 ay 1,155,000. Ayun, ganun lang siya. Okay, so eto may additional pa tayo na different methods of depreciation. Ito naman ay let's say yung class of assets, ginroup siya ni entities. Tapos, yung depreciation ay as a group, hindi as an individual na per asset, pero ito as a class of assets. So, per group siya i-depreciate. So, meron tayong composite method tsaka group method. Ang difference lang nito, while similar yung computation, like same lang talaga. Ang difference lang ay kung paano kinaklas yung asset. So, pag composite method, ang kinaklas ay yung assets dissimilar in nature. So, kahit dissimilar in nature, kinaklas. Pag naman group method, ang kinaklas lang ni entity ay yung mga similar in nature na assets lang. So, ayun nga, depreciating the entire class of PP over a single life or a single depreciation rate. So, ayan. Same lang yung computation. So, pag ang basis daw ng depreciation ay composite or group life, so ang formula nun ay total depreciable amount. So, lahat ng depreciable amount nung nandun sa class of assets, i-add mo. Tapos i-add mo rin yung total annual depreciation nung nandun sa class of assets. So, ang sagot dun, yun yung composite or group life. So, tas yung total depreciable amount, i-divide mo siya sa composite of group or group life, yun yung depreciation expense. Pag naman ang basis of depreciation ay composite or group rate, yung total annual depreciation, i-divide mo siya sa total cost of class of PPE. So yung cost, hindi depreciable amount yung cost. So hindi papansinin yung residual value sa sa denominator pag CG rate. Pero Okay, malito ha, 'pag total annual depreciation isasama niyo pa rin yung depreciable amount depending kung paano daw siya dine-depreciate. So ayan. Pero ang point ko lang is sa cost, yung cost talaga hindi mo iko-consider yung residual value. So, annual depreciation over cost of class of PPE, yun yung rate. Tapos, yung total cost, i-multiply mo siya sa cost or composite or group rate, yun yung depreciation expense. Ganun lang siya. Okay, so wait lang, pahinga ko ng slide. Pero ayan yung problem. Basahin niyo muna if gusto niyo. Hindi, joke lang. So yung problem daw ay Bloom Company purchased an equipment at an invoice price of 6,075,000 with terms of 210 net 30. The entity paid the required amount for the machine beyond the discount period. So hindi daw na-avail yung discount term. The entity paid 108,000 for delivery and 418,500 for installation and testing. The machine was ready for use on January 1, 2024. It was estimated that the machine will have a useful life of 5 years and a residual value of 1,080,000. Estimates indicated that throughout the equipment's useful life, it will produce 270,000 units. Units actually produced during the first 2 years were 40,500 in 2024 and 64,800 in 2025. The entity decided to use the output method of depreciation. What amount should be reported as accumulated depreciation of the equipment on December 31, 2025? So, kailangan pa natin i-compute yung depreciation expense ng 2024 and 2025 para makuha yung sagot sa problem. So, sa problem, given tayo ng output method. So, maganda tong problem na to kasi involved dito yung capitalization, ano yung i-capitalize, tapos yung depreciation na rin. So, initial and subsequent. So, ang initial measurement natin ay invoice price less cash discount. Yun yung purchase price, 5,953,500. Tapos i-add natin yung mga DAX. So, yung freight tsaka installation and testing, ang sum nun ay 526,500. So, ang initial cost ng equipment ay 6,480,000. So, ilalas natin doon yung residual value since sa output method, kino-consider residual value. So, 6.48 million less 1.08 million. Ang depreciable amount ay 5,400,000. So, i-divide natin siya sa estimated outputs over useful life, which is 270,000. So, ang depreciation natin per unit would be 20,000. Ay, 20,000, ay 20. So, i-multiply natin yung 20 sa units produced ng 2024 and 2025. So, yung sagot nun per year, pag-a-add mo siya, ang magiging sagot doon, yun na yung accumulated depreciation as of 2025. So, ang sagot ay 2,106,000. Okay. Okay, so, ito na. Since doon sa subsequent measurement, it can be either at cost or at revaluation model. So, ito na may revaluation model. So, pag revaluation model, items of PPE whose fair value can be reliably measured can be carried at revalued amount. So ano ba yung revalued amount? Yung revalued amount daw ay fair value at date of revaluation less subsequent accumulated depreciation and impairment losses. Tapos ang basis natin ng revalued amount ay it's either A, fair value, or B, sound value. Tapos gagamitin lang daw natin yung sound value if hindi given si fair value, if hindi available si fair value. So, ang computation naman ng sound value ay replacement cost less accumulated depreciation. Kaya siya tinatawag din na depreciated replacement cost. So, yung revaluation surplus, magkakaroon ng revaluation surplus if yung fair value subsequently ay mas mataas sa carrying amount. So, fair value less carrying amount yung revaluation surplus. So at the date of revaluation, the entire revaluation surplus is credited. Tapos yung revaluation surplus na yan, ina-amortize din siya dun sa over the useful life, dun sa remaining useful life ng asset. So ayan. Ito nakalagay diyan. Revaluation surplus is realized over the remaining useful life of the asset and reclassified through retained earnings. So since kinredit mo in its entirety yung revaluation surplus, so ang entry mo para i-realize yung revaluation surplus ay debit revaluation surplus tas credit retained earnings. Tas ito yun. Ito yung mostly gagamitin nyo na sa pag-compute at revaluation model. So, meron tayong 3 components, cost, replacement cost, tas increments. Ito yung differences kung magkano yung in-increase. So, para mo yung increments, i-less mo yung replacement cost dun sa A. Tapos yun. And actually, magigets yun naman siya pag titignan nyo yung table. Tapos ito din siya, sound value less carrying amount. Yun yung revaluation surplus. Okay. Since tapos na tayo sa PPE, dumako naman tayo ng slide sa I mean, hindi pa tayo tapos sa PPE. So, dumako lang tayo saglit sa wasting assets. So, actually, wait lang. Mag-break muna ako ng slide. Since naiihi ako. Oh my God. Ayan, sorry na. So, I'm back. So, ayun nga. Mabalik tayo sa mentoring. So, dumako lang tayo saglit sa depletion. So, sa intro sa depletion, kailangan natin malaman ano muna yung dine-deplete. So, ang dine-deplete ni entity ay wasting assets. So, what are wasting assets? Wasting assets are material objects. Wait lang, naka ano ba ako? Ayun, naka-unmute naman. So, wasting assets are material objects of economic value and utility produced by nature. So, in short, natural resources. Ang dami daldal. So, yung wasting assets, let's say, if involved si entity in mining of coal. So, di ba pag nagmamine ka ng coal, may phases pa yon. Kailangan mo muna mag-obtain ng legal right to explore if may coal ba doon. Tapos, after nun, nagkaroon ka na ng legal right. So, nag-start ka na mag-explore. Tapos, nung nag-explore ka na, nakita mo na, meron palang technical feasibility, tapos pwede mo siyang ibenta. So, na-obtain mo naman yung technical feasibility and commercial viability. So, from this point na nag-obtain ka ng legal right to explore, up to the point na before ka obtain ng technical feasibility and commercial viability, ang tawag doon, exploration cost. Tapos, at the point na, di ba, na-establish mo na may commercial viability yung natural resource. So, after nun, nag-extract ka na. So, yung other cost along the way na na-incur mo doon, ang tawag na doon, development cost. So, ayan yung mini timeline. Simplified lang, pero ayan yun. So, ang cost of raising assets ay tinatawag natin DEAR. So, ano ba yung DEAR? We have development cost plus exploration cost plus acquisition cost plus restoration cost. So, sa exploration cost, marami siyang forms. It can take in many forms. So, meron dito topographical studies, trenching, drilling, sampling, acquisition of rights to explore, general and administrative costs directly attributed to exploration, activities related to evaluation of technical feasibility. So lahat yan under ng exploration cost. So pag pinag-add mo yun, yung DEAR, yun yung magiging cost ng ating wasting asset. So sa exploration cost daw, meron dalawang method kung paano siya i-account. Merong successful effort, merong full cost. Pag naman pag successful effort, from the name itself, ang ikaka-capitalize mo lang ay yung mga successful na explorations. So, only successful explorations are capitalized as cost of raising asset. Unsuccessful attempts are expensed in the period incurred. Pag naman full cost, all explorations, whether successful or not, are capitalized as cost of raising asset. So, paano nga ba dine-deplete yung wasting asset? So, dine-deplete siya using rate. So, wasting asset less residual value, yan yung depletable amount over total estimated units to be extracted. Tapos, yung depletion mismo ay actual units extracted times depletion rate. Ayun lang. Simple lang. Parang output method of depreciation lang, di ba? Tapos, if subsequently nagkaroon ng changes, para ma-accommodate yung changes, magbabago yung depletion rate. So, ito yun. Yung cost of raising asset, i-add mo yung mga additional na incur mo na DEAR, additional DEAR cost incurred. Tapos ilalas mo yung accumulated depletion up to the point ng revision. Tapos ang sagot doon, ang makuha mo doon na amount ay remaining depletable amount. Tapos ilalas mo na yung residual value. Tapos yun na yung depletable, yun na yung depletion basis, yun ay panibago mong depletion basis. Tapos i-divide mo siya sa new estimate of units to be extracted. Tapos yun na yung new depletion rate. Ayan, ganyan lang siya. Tapos, since pag nagde-deplete naman if engaged si entity sa mining business, bumibili din si entity ng equipments, ng machines para para mag-extract. So, tawag doon wasting assets related sa PPE. PPE related sa wasting assets. So, meron two types yung wasting assets, merong movable and immovable. Masasabi mong movable siya kapag meron siyang alternative use after depletion. Immovable naman kapag wala na siyang alternative use after depletion. So let's say, meron biniling equipment si entity. Kasi yung equipment na yon, after nung mining, hindi na siya magagamit. So ika-classify mo siya as immovable. Pag naman yung equipment ay pwede gamitin, let's say, dun sa business pa nila after ng mining, movable yun. So ang treatment pag movable, de-depreciate natin yung PPE related to wasting asset na movable over its useful life. Kapag ka naman immovable, i-depreciate natin yung PPE related to wasting asset over shorter of useful life or life of the wasting asset. Shorter of useful life nung PPE related to wasting asset, tsaka yung life ng wasting asset mismo. Kasi wala na siyang alternative use after depletion. So, alin man yung mas maiksi doon sa buhay ng asset o ng wasting asset. So, ito, illustration 9, Mango Company acquired for 11,250,000 property which is believed to include mineral deposit. Geological estimates indicate that approximately 1.25 million tons of mineral may be extracted. It is further estimated that the property can be sold for 3.125 million after the mineral extraction. So, after initial acquisition, the following costs were incurred. Exploration, 4.375 million, development 4 million, development costs related to production equipment, 5.75 million. Tapos ito pa, the entity is legally required to restore the land to a condition appropriate for resale at a discounted amount of 1 million. Tapos, the entity extracted 62,500 tons of the mineral in the current year. What amount should be recorded as depletion for the current year? So, ang maingay, sorry. So, ang i-capitalize natin na cost of raising asset ay acquisition cost na 11.25 million. Yung exploration cost na 4.375 million. Tapos yung development cost na related lang sa drilling of wells. So, 4 million kasi yun ay related do sa wasting asset eh. Tapos restoration cost, ito siya. Ito, legally required to restore the land to a condition appropriate for resale at a discounted amount of 1 million. So, pag pinag-add mo lahat ng kinapitalize, yun yung cost of raising asset, which is 20,625,000. Ilalas natin yung residual value kasi pwede daw ibenta yung property after extraction for 3.125 million. So, ang depletable amount ay 17,500,000. Tapos, i-divide mo siya sa estimated tons to be extracted, 1.25 million. Ang depletion rate per ton ay 14. Tapos, i-multiply mo siya sa na-extract nung current year, which is, kailan ba? Ay, 62,500 daw yung na-extract nung current year. So, 14 times 62,500, ang depletion for the current year would be 875,000. Ayan, ganyan lang mostly yung depletion problems. Ayan, so additional illustration, in 2024, Downtown Mining Company purchased property with natural resources of 22,400 at 22,400,000. The property had a residual value of 4 million. However, Downtown is required to restore the property to its original condition at a discounted amount of 1.6 million. In 2024, the entity spent 800,000 in development costs and 2.4 million in building on the property. The entity does not anticipate that the building will have utility after the natural resources are extracted. 8 million tons are estimated to be extracted from the property. In 2024, the entity extracted 22.4 million tons. What amount should be recognized as depletion for 2024? So, given tayo ng acquisition cost, kasi pinurchase daw ni Downtown for 22.4 million. Given din tayo ng residual value, given tayo na restoration cost, kasi required sila. Tapos, given din tayo ng 800,000 development cost. So, kakapitalize natin lahat yon, yung acquisition, restoration, tsaka development. Yun yung cost of raising asset, which is 24.8 million. Ilalas mo yung residual value, ang depletable amount would be 20,800,000. Kasi di-divide mo siya sa estimated tons to be extracted, 8 million. So, ang depletion per ton would be 2.6. So, i-multiply mo siya sa tons extracted in 2024, 2.6 times 2.4 million. Ang depletion na i-recognize ni Downtown ay 6.24 million during 2024. So, ayun lang. So, last topic. Nasa impairment na tayo. Oh my God, ang bilis. Okay, so last topic would be, when are assets considered impaired? So, i-consider natin na impaired yung asset kapag yung recoverable amount is less than the carrying amount of the asset. The assets shall therefore be reduced by the amount of the impairment loss. So, yung impairment loss ay carrying amount less recoverable amount. Tapos, ano ba yung recoverable amount? Yung recoverable amount ay higher of fair value less cost of disposal and value in use. Ano naman yung value in use? Yung value in use ay present value or net future cash flows expected to be derived from an asset. So, ayun siya. Alin man yung mataas doon. Tapos, what if subsequently nag-recognize sa impairment loss pero subsequently tumaas yung recoverable amount. Yung reversal daw ay reversal should not exceed the carrying amount that would have been determined if there were no impairment loss recognized for the asset in prior years. Gain on reversal should be based on whichever is lower among carrying amount had no impairment losses been recognized or the recoverable amount. So ayun daw. Yung gain on reversal, dapat hindi siya mag-exceed dun sa dun sa carrying amount ng asset kung hindi tayo nag-recognize sa impairment. So, ang computation nun would be, wait lang, may illustration dito eh. Ito, illustration 10. Yung susunod na illustration dito may reversal. So, on January 1, 2023, CAF Company has a machinery with a cost of 8.75 million and accumulated depreciation of 2.625 million. The machinery was acquired on January 1, 2020 and had been depreciated using the straight-line method with useful life of 10 years and no residual value. On January 1, 2023, the entity has properly tested the machinery to be impaired. The machinery has remaining life of 5 years and is expected to generate undiscounted net cash flows of 1.4 million per year. The fair value of the machinery on the same date is 5.25 million. The appropriate discount rate is 8%, and the present value of an ordinary annuity of 1 at 8% is 3.99. What amount should be recognized as an impairment loss for 2023? So, ang step 1 dito, hanapin natin yung carrying amount. Carrying amount siya yung recoverable. So, yung carrying amount, cost of machinery 8.75 less accumulated depreciation. So, ang carrying amount daw ni machinery ay 6.125. Tapos, ayun naman, hanapin natin yung recoverable amount. Yung fair value of machinery ay 5.25 million. Ayun, nakalagay dyan. Tapos, yung value in use, given tayo ng undiscounted net cash flows, 1.4 million. I-multiply natin siya dito sa present value factor. So, 1.4 times 3.99, yun yung value in use, 5.586. Tapos, kung alin yung mas mataas dyan, yun yung recoverable amount. So, carrying amount less recoverable amount, yun yung impairment loss, 539,000. Okay. Tapos ito, illustration 11. On January 1, 2023, Salia Sisters Company purchased a building for 20 million. The building has a useful life of 20 years and no residual value. On December 31, 2027, the entity tested the asset for an impairment. The fair value on the date is 12 million. On December 31, 2029, the Salia Sisters Company decided to use the revaluation model. The fair value on such date has risen to 18 million. What amount should be recognized as gain on reversal of impairment for 2029? So ito na, may reversal. So ang kunin muna natin yung ito, isa-isa natin yung problem. Yung cost of building daw ay 20 million. Ilalas mo yung accumulated depreciation up to 2027. Sige, try natin. 20 divided by 20. Tapos, from 2023 to 2027, 5 years. Times 5 million. So, 20 less 5 million, yun yung carrying amount of building on 2027, 15 million. So, noong 2027, impaired siya. Kasi, mas mataas yung carrying amount kasi dun sa fair value as of 2027. So, may impairment loss na 3 million. Tapos, sabi dito, on December 31, 2029, The Sally sisters decided to use the revaluation model. The fair value on such date has risen to 18 million. So, ayan. Ang next naman natin kukunin ay, ano yung carrying amount ni asset if hindi natin siya in-impair noong December 2027. So, from 2023, tapos from 2023, 2029, so pwede din naman 2027 to 2029. So may additional 2 years. So yung 1 million times 2, 2 million, ito. Ilaless mo siya dun sa carrying amount of building noong 2027. Pero pwede rin naman 20 million noong 2023. Tapos mag-recognize ka ng ng 7 years na depreciation. So, ang carrying amount of building, kung hindi tayo nag-impair noong 2027 ay 13 million. Tapos, ang magiging basis daw natin ng reversal of impairment ay wait lang, tingnan nga natin. Yung mas mababa dun sa carrying amount kung hindi na tayo nag-recognize sa impairment or yung recoverable amount. So, ang mas mababa dito sa 13 million na carrying amount if walang impairment, tsaka dun sa fair value ng 2029, syempre yung carrying amount nung 2029. So, yun yung basis natin ng reversal. Tapos, yung basis natin ng reversal, yung without impairment, i-compare natin siya sa carrying amount of building with impairment. So, yung with impairment, so yung, di ba nung 2027 impaired siya. So, from 15 million, ginawa natin 12 million yung carrying amount. Tapos i-depreciate mo siya sa remaining useful life. So, 12 million. Noong 2027, may 15 years pa siya na remaining useful life. Tapos, from 2027 to 2029, which is 2 years, times 2. So, 800,000 times 2, 1.6 million. Yun yung depreciation with impairment. So, 12 million less 1.6 million. So, ang carrying amount of building on 2029 with impairment ay 10.4 million. So, yung difference nung without impairment sa with impairment, yun yung gain on reversal of impairment in 2029. So, 13 less 10.4 million, 2.6 million yung reversal of impairment noong 2029. Ayun lang, ganun siya. So, pag may reversal, kukunin mo yung magkano yung carrying amount if hindi siya in-impair. Tapos, compare mo siya dun sa, ayun, balikan natin to. Compare mo siya dun sa recoverable amount. Tapos yung recoverable amount, syempre fair value naman yun. Yung din yun, recoverable amount ay fair value or higher or value in use. Value in use, alin man yung mas mataas na. Ayan, so yun na yung last topic. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching this pre-recorded mentoring session. I hope you learned something. And if may natutunan ka, I mean kahit wala, so you can access the peer mentoring evaluation form by scanning this QR code. So, ayun. Thank you guys for watching this pre-recorded lecture. So, magbibigay na ako ng links ng practice test tsaka nitong PowerPoint dun sa mga batch reps niya. Ayan. So, ayun. Thank you ulit for listening, for watching.